You ever have those mornings where you walk into the shop and the smell of cedar just resets your internal clock?
I usually walk in and the smell of, I forgot to empty the shop vac resets my clock, Tiger. But I get the sentiment. You're feeling poetic today because we're looking into the future. 2026 is officially breathing down our necks.
It's a strange horizon, Alex. My grandfather used to say a tool was finished the day it was forged. Now, I'm looking at these new 2026 specs from Milwaukee and Makita, and these things have more brain power than the computer that put men on the moon.
And hopefully less chance of a total system failure halfway through a rip cut.
Well, that's the trick, isn't it? The big shift we're seeing for next year isn't just more power. We've reached peak torque. I don't need a drill that can twist my arm out of its socket. What we're getting now is thermal management. Basically, these tools are finally learning how to sweat so they don't have a heart attack when you're driving 6-inch timber screws all afternoon. It's like they gave the motors a better set of lungs.
Are you actually falling in love with a battery platform?
Don't tell my pneumatic tools they're sensitive, but honestly, the real curveball is Bose entering the shop ecosystem.
Wait, the headphone people? Are they making a smart hammer that plays jazz?
Not quite. They're integrating audio and communication across the whole floor. Imagine you're at the miter saw and you can actually hear your apprentice across the shop without him having to do a frantic interpretive dance to tell you the dimensions are wrong. It's about not sacrificing your hearing while staying in the loop.
I'll believe it when I see you actually wearing a headset instead of just shouting, "What?" at me every 5 minutes. But for the people who aren't looking for a smart workspace, the folks just getting their first keys to a fixer-upper, is the tech leaving them behind?
Never. If you're just starting, you don't need a Wi-Fi enabled wrench. You need that Stanley 65-piece kit. It's the bread and butter. I've probably owned 3 of those sets in my life. Not because they broke, but because I keep giving them away to people moving into their first apartments. It's the universal congratulations, you're an adult gift.
Speaking of tools, the automotive side of the house is seeing a massive shift. I was looking at the 2026 career projections, and it's not just about turning wrenches anymore. It's looking more like a life cycle of service model.
Man, the auto world is getting heavy. When I started, you could fix most things with a hammer and a bit of colorful language. Now, if you don't have a laptop and a deep understanding of hybrid diagnostics, you're basically just looking at a very expensive paperweight.
That's the gold standard they're talking about. The successful techs in 2026 are the ones who can balance the high volume stuff, the oil changes and rotations that keep the lights on, with the surgical stuff, the transmission diagnostics, the electrical gremlins.
It's a mindset shift. I talked to a shop owner last week who told me he doesn't hire based on a resume anymore. He looks for heart. He wants the kid who sees a car as a living thing, not a chore.
It's funny you say that. It's almost like the more high-tech the cars get, the more we need that old-school passion to actually care enough to find the problem.
Precisely. If you're a green hire out there, don't worry about knowing every sensor on a 2026 EV. Show up with an appetite. I can teach a person how to bleed brakes, but I can't teach them to give a hoot about the work.
Let's pivot to the maker moguls. Not everyone wants to work in a shop for someone else. 2026 seems to be the year of the niche maker.
The gold rush is on, Alex. But the gold isn't in the products, it's in the storytelling.
You mean like the candle business? I saw that in the report. Everyone and their cousin is making candles now. How is that still a profitable craft?
Because people don't buy wax and a wick, they buy an escape. If you sell me a scented candle, I'm going to look at the price and walk away. But if you sell me a rainy morning in the redwood forest, well, now I can smell the damp earth and the pine needles. You've sold me a bridge to a memory.
You're a secret romantic, Tiger. But romance doesn't pay the electric bill. What about the mogul rule for pricing?
This is where most makers trip over their own feet and faceplant. They calculate the resin and the wood, and they think they've got a price. They forget the most expensive ingredient, their own heartbeat.
Your hourly labor?
Exactly. If you're making tufted rugs or resin jewelry and you aren't paying yourself a real wage, not a hobby wage, but I have to buy groceries wage, you aren't running a business. You're just having an expensive panic attack. Materials plus labor plus overhead plus profit. If you skip any of those, you're just subsidizing your customers' lives with your own time.
That's a tough pill for a lot of artists to swallow. They feel guilty charging what things are actually worth.
Guilt doesn't buy a new bandsaw, Alex.
I want to wrap up with something you told me earlier about DIY mastery. You mentioned that woodworking is becoming a tool for economic freedom.
It sounds grand, doesn't it? But it's real. I've seen stories lately of folks who were stuck in a cycle of just barely getting by. They picked up a used table saw, bought a solid set of professional plans, and that's the key, not winging it on a napkin, and they started building.
You're a big advocate for plans lately. You used to be the measure twice, cut once, then go back to the lumberyard because I messed up guy.
Hey, I've contributed plenty to the scrap bin in my time, but there's a specific kind of confidence that comes from following a well-drafted blueprint. It's like having a master craftsman standing over your shoulder, whispering, "Don't cut that yet." It flattens the learning curve. You go from, "I hope this holds a coffee cup," to, "I just built a family heirloom," in half the time.
And the community live streams? You're actually going live now?
Sunday nights, it's the most honest part of my week. People see the mistakes in real time. They see the glue up that goes sideways or the bolt that shears off. Watching someone else solve a problem is worth 10 hours of watching a polished, perfect tutorial where nothing ever goes wrong.
Because in the real world, everything goes wrong at least once.
Twice if you're lucky, because then you actually remember the lesson. Look, whether you're fixing a sink with that Stanley kit, diagnosing a 2026 hybrid, or selling your first hand-poured candle, the takeaway is the same. The tool is just an extension of the person holding it.
So don't be a tool, just use them.
Exactly. Stay curious, keep your blades sharp, and for heaven's sake, pay yourself for your time.
Beautifully said. We'll see you all next time in the den.